Gameplay of City Skylines 2. Finally, some actual gameplay footage at the Xbox event that took place less than 24 hours ago, and this is huge. Confirming a lot of our speculations and also showing us a lot of features that we never expected. And I am beyond delighted and absolutely thrilled to see some of the things that I was hoping for and had been dreaming of and wishes that I wanted to see. Talking with all of you during live streams and reading all the comments in all of the comment sections for City Skylines. And after City Skylines 2, everybody talking about the things they wanted to see and that they needed to see in order for this to be a worthwhile sequel. And today we can finally confirm a lot of those things, obviously, like seasons, which were pretty much confirmed before, and other things that we saw during our leaked gameplay footage, where it showed some, in-game screenshots that showed a little bit of what it would be like to play the game. But now today we actually get some moving pictures and a full trailer for City Skylines 2 gameplay directly from the devs. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the like button. And of course, let me know how excited you are. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. And let's go ahead and begin our first look at City Skylines 2 gameplay. Let's go.
Play it day one with Game Pass.
Yeah, an absolutely insane amount of information to unpack here. Really, truly overwhelming amount of different things that we can learn from this trailer and break down. But the first thing at the very surface of this trailer I could say is that it certainly looks and feels like the original game, which is a great thing. All the effort, all the time, and all the skills that we learned from the original City Skylines can be put to use here in City Skylines 2 from day one. And so it's almost like the original City Skylines was a preparation or a practice for this game, so we can all immediately start building giant cities, detailed cities, and highly dense cities with huge density and massive buildings with ease. Now, of course, if you haven't played this game before, it looks like there's more tools than ever in order to try to organize your city, but I'm still seeing the things that always irked me from the first game. Like, for example, just random green triangles on the curved roads where buildings can't be placed on the edges. But there's a lot of great things here that we're going to break down one by one after kind of going into an image by image breakdown. So just hold on here, because there's a ton of stuff to break down just from the almost 1 minute trailer that they've showcased. Parallel roads, highways, and modular building too. Yeah, so you could build a power plant now, and instead of having to build a power plant next to a power plant, you can upgrade buildings, which is fantastic. And that's something from the original SimCity from 2013 that I wish City Skylines had in its original game, but now is present here in City Skylines 2. I'm super excited. There's a lot of things that I see that remind me of Transport Fever 2. I love the seasonal transitions. I love the look of the game. Although some people may say it certainly looks bland, they're also trying to make a game for consoles, and probably wanted to run at 60 frames per second. So obviously this is a corporation that's trying to earn as much money as possible off the game that they're making, and so thus they have to appeal to the most amount of people and have it available on the most amount of platforms to make that happen. But Game Pass, and coming October 24th, which is big. All right, let's break down some of the images and go deeper into City Skylines 2. Obviously, we've got a lot to cover here, so I just wanted to make some brief comments on each of these images. First, the highway at the very start of the trailer looks great, and the traffic moving very slow is very promising for what seems to be a more realistic traffic structure, or I guess just realism in general for all the cars. They, of course, look more realistic, and they seem to be traveling at realistic speeds, too, that match what's on the road. If you look closely, I believe that road is marked as 35 miles per hour at the top there, but it is great to see what looks to be like an avenue going over a highway and on and off ramps, and there's just it's really great to see that this is vanilla and that you're not going to need all these mods and other things, and that this is just a base part of the game to be able to get this level of complex infrastructure, especially with roads. Love it. Oh, what a glorious sight. A tram in the middle of a roundabout. It's like chocolate and peanut butter coming together. It's like Nutella. It's so beautiful. Yeah, this game's going to actually have a roundabout tool and an intersection tool as well that we'll see a little bit later. But obviously, a university in the background and the tram coming out of there, cutting through the roundabout, just gorgeous. Nice looking buildings too. I like seeing all the AC units and other things on top of the buildings, although I think they look a little bland in some cases, but perhaps each building is randomly generated in some of its features now, or possibly at the roof. I'm not sure, but yeah, a great screenshot, and really excited to see more for roundabouts. We get roundabouts, a roundabout tool. That's huge. I cannot stress that enough. And here we have a little glimpse at the terrain tool options, some terraforming, and what looks to be 3 buttons at the top of that menu that look like grass and possibly pathing. This might be the option for building pedestrian paths, but one thing that really stands out here on the left side is the brush size and brush strength. And the great thing here is that it's not a slider, it's actually a precise number that you might be able to type in. So if you want to make the brush size 404 or 204 or 19 or whatever you want, you can probably get more precision than you would out of a slider. So good things here, and it looks like there's options to make maybe perhaps like erosion and do wear and tear on some of the landscape. Some options that you would find more in the map maker that are here present in what I would imagine to be the city builder section of the game. Here is the meat and cheese and the bread and butter of City Skylines 2. All the road options. Now this is huge in City Skylines in terms of mods and all the different things to make it easier to build roads, more precision, and of course more options to build more realistic roads, but there is a lot to look at here. First of all the tabs at the top of the menu would look to be like one-way roads and possibly roads with trams and roads with bus lanes or bike lanes, highways. There's an intersection tool, roundabout tool, and one that seems to be parking as well. And then it seems next to that road maintenance, so something perhaps for snowplows, because of course now we got seasonal transitions, so perhaps some maps will have snow. Maybe you can set some to be tropical so you won't see that as much, but regardless, roads will need to have maintenance, so that might be now an intricate part of your city building, is maintaining the roads, not just building them. But it looks like all sorts of different options for types of roads, including dirt roads and possibly service and industrial roads, and then also different types of bridges. But here we see a great tool that was present, I think, in SimCity 2013, is the ability to just quickly click and drag into a full grid. Yeah, that's hard to say, but hey, that's really cool. The fact that we can make some easy grids is very nice, especially for console players, and also options for elevation. So it looks like if you want to have a highway be like 10 meters underground, when you're clicking and dragging a highway, it looks like you'll be able to easily make a sunken highway from default without having to first terraform the land, even up the edges, and then build the road in there. It looks like the system will automatically take care of that. Now, in a little bit, we'll also see what looks to be a parallel option too. So if you want to build 2 one-way roads next to each other with the consistent distance between them, like for example 5 meters between 2 highway bridges, it looks like it's easier than ever to do that. So very cool. A lot of snapping options as well. Gonna have to see what all those do and how they function, and tool modes. So that seems to be your typical like straight line only, curve road, freeform, or possibly as we see here what looks to be a grid mode, which, as you saw in the trailer, the further you drag, the larger it makes those city blocks, and it makes it just much more precise to make sure you're building effective city blocks that allow you to make the new maximum size up to 6x6 buildings. So that's pretty cool. There is a lot to look at here. I mean, look at all those buttons. So shiny. I want to click them all. Well, this just seems like another generic screenshot of the roads on the surface, but if you look closely at that roundabout, oh my god, roundabouts! Not just the roundabout though, I'm very excited for how compact they are and very efficient they are. But one thing to take away here is look at the little lines on the road around the roundabout. They don't just seem like wear and tear lines or differences in the material of the road where it looks like the darker sections on, for example, the curved road going towards the intersection on the right. Right side could be for parking and the left side, of course, could be for traffic, but around the roundabouts, it looks like that could be a tool for looking at traffic density, maybe a way to control the speed limits without having to change the road type, which would be fantastic to have a variance of 10 or 20 miles or kilometers per hour with the same road types, just being able to control it in a residential neighborhood versus just like a generic road that doesn't really have any buildings on it. But yeah, I really like the look of the roundabouts here. Hopefully we get different options to decorate them and possibly put like a statue or a fountain or something like that in the middle. But again, no options to, put the buildings along that road there. The curved road seems to just be isolated, but it could be like how it is in the new City Skylines update where we have the option to turn on and off placement of zoning next to the road. So perhaps in this case, whoever's building this road has chosen for it just to be a kind of a cut through to the other side. So remains to be seen for me, but yeah, I really like the layout of all the roads though, and it seems like hopefully we will get a tool in the future to better differentiate between the roads, like a search tool, but they seem to be more organized by one-way, multi-lane, one-way, etc., etc. Good stuff. For this next screenshot, something really interesting over by the water. It looks to be piers for industrial areas that I don't know if it'll maybe serve as a future port area or if, whoever's building is planning on some sort of further development. But it does look like at least it's easier to make artificial land without having to make it kind of a difficult and tedious task. They could have spent some time doing this, but honestly, I feel like this city is like maybe just a few hours worth of work rather than it being like a super detailed and highly thought out city. But what's really nice here is the highway that's coming in from the left side goes to an avenue down in the downtown area that's nicely separated and I think that's by the parallel tool, not necessarily just it being a road itself that's got an opening in between, but it looks like two separate roads that have been separated to showcase that, because next to that you can see a few avenues kind of going off from that and they look all different. So it's great to see that roads of different types can be used to make different roads without having to put much effort into it. The parallel tool, for example, will allow you to use maybe 2, 3, 4 lane one-way roads and then make an avenue down the middle of your city. Now, hopefully they make it easy, for example, the trees there at that intersection, possibly to put down a area for pavement or for crosswalks. You can see some of the crosswalks there that just go into the grass that could easily be a way across to the median and then to the other side of the city if they think out some sort of a way to paint or put down cobblestone or something on the in-between and then make it so that way people can cross. And that would be a great detail for the city and make it more walkable. I mean, everything's always glory to the cars in this game, but I think even now we need more, especially with the Plazas and Promenades DLC, more focus on pedestrian traffic going from a bus stop to down a sidewalk, across a road, and then to a train station or something like that very easily with integration without having to build large pathways. Be nice. Be real nice. What do we have here? There is, again, a lot to look at, so check this out. Right, just seemingly the residential district planning here, the zoning. Not too much to wait a minute. What's that over on the left? Theme? Oh, looks like you can choose American and European themes for now, which is amazing because that means that other people who put in mods later on, and of course DLCs for the game, could bring in other themes such as Korea, Japan, Mexico, wherever, and you could have different styles of buildings which could not only relate to its style but also size. Now, what seems to be here under the residential tab where we see the 6 different colored buildings of green looks to be possibly density or possibly something else. It looks like some of them could be a different modern theme. Obviously, on the left we have like a small suburban home, then some kind of more medium density older buildings, maybe made of brick. Then it almost looks like we're getting into office building territory, even though these are residential buildings. The last 3 almost look as if they're office buildings that possibly could have been converted from offices to lofts or something like that, but I'm assuming it's just larger and larger density as we go on. Now, none of these buildings look to be like skyscrapers or condos or luxury housing or whatnot, but it is kind of cool to see how they plop them down and that we have more and more options for it, as well as a tool mode, which I'm imagining is just the paint mode, the click and drag mode, and then obviously the paint bucket painting everything, and then the paintbrush being individual zones. So if you want to have like a mixed a block where you could put a commercial building on one side, residential on the other, you could definitely do that. Now, at the top there you see green, blue, yellow. That's obviously residential, commercial, and industrial. Purple, now what could that be? Well, that's actually offices now. But what is that last one? It looks to be maybe like an oil pump or something like that. What the heck is that thing? Yeah, I don't know. Have actually to figure that one out. A lot of unanswered questions. But again, if you watch through this point of the video, please do comment down below on what you think or what you know to be some of these things we can only speculate on, since we haven't been able to yet get our hands on the full game just yet. But yeah, very exciting stuff, and I like to see all the changes, additions, and inclusions of new things within like traditional sectors. Obviously zoning, this is the easiest way to do it. First you build the roads, and then you paint the zoning sectors or zone them accordingly to residential, industrial, etc. But yeah, good to see. I like it. Now this is interesting. This is a look at the office building zoning, and on the left side where it says office buildings and office signature buildings, those are two different office types of purple and pink. And at the bottom there under the zoning, we see those two different types, which could be possibly signature buildings that are more landmarks, like for example the Empire State Building, where perhaps it could also be a tourist attraction, not just a office building where people go to work, but perhaps something where people can also go to attract tourists and be a landmark in the city, which might draw more traffic there. And maybe we'll have other things inside of it, like restaurants and shops at the base level, and then all the offices above. So it would be really interesting to see some of these buildings not only just be something where you want to kind of put them to the side out of the way, but if they can be a centerpiece of the city now, that is even better. Now, the last DLC that we got for City Skylines that added skyscrapers really added a lot of beautiful real-world buildings, and so it would be fantastic to not only see signature buildings for offices, but also residential and commercial and also industrial, where it's a famous building that's like a historical landmark or whatnot that has benefits, but also, of course, some negative things too. Like, for example, a factory is probably not going to be the most or least polluting thing in the world, but maybe there's going to be a way where people would want to go and tour it or be around it for some reason. I don't know, but it'd be an interesting game mechanic to implement not only just regular buildings, but also landmarks that aren't necessarily separate that you build in an area, but can be built as you're building that area. I don't know, kind of cool, especially if it can upgrade and be a growable building. Now that would be really cool. This was probably my favorite scene from the entire trailer. Look at the infrastructure and all that verticality. I absolutely love this. You see a big rig coming down the highway, and what seems to be a retaining wall or a noise barrier, and then all these things on top of it. I mean, there is, again, I keep saying it, but there is really so much here. The tool to show the angling and the distance, as somebody here is building an on-ramp from one road or a highway to another, and you can see how it's like, sunken into the ground. The highway there seems to come down and go underneath all that's there. There's also a road or a rail line that goes parallel to the highway too, that eventually curves, as there's some off-ramps and on-ramps on the left side that go down to the highway below. And that's just gorgeous. Of course, they're building kind of a more traditional highway that you see in the original game, with the on-ramps kind of just going to a T intersection, and it just looks great. It's really nice to see the highway too, of course, with about a meter or so between the two roads. They're using the parallel tool to build this. I could only imagine with that consistency. But this is just really nice to see. I love seeing how closely things can be built. The game's seeming to give a little bit more leeway. Hopefully we have options to adjust bridge supports too, so that way you can put them in more realistic locations before or after, like a rail line, for example. But some of these structures do seem really, really believable here, and it's nice to see that we can build things so the density in a very small area, so that way you can use all that other space for all the residential buildings and for your city, not just for the infrastructure. One thing I really want to do in this game from day one is to try to build a very dense city without really expanding too much, to see how quickly I can put things together and have them very close. Sprawling is interesting, but having everything be so close together and having roads go over railroads and have highways go over that and then have something like another high-speed rail line go over everything would be very interesting. We're talking more like Japan in terms of like the different types of roadways that we can see, and this is just a beautiful image. So yeah, I want to print this and actually put this on the wall. Again, look at all the options down below for the highway roads too. You have like two one-way lane roads there. You have multiple lane highways, on-ramps, and different types of bridges too, it seems. It looks like there's a truss bridge at the bottom on the right side, and then 4 types of suspension bridges, which I imagine are just various types of lanes. But what I'd really like to see here is some integrated tram and rail lines into those bridges too. A lot of these things need to be day one, and I want a lot more options for bridges in City Skylines 2. Give me different materials, give me different looks and feels. Obviously, if there's an American theme for the buildings in this game, then there should be a European theme or an American theme for the roadways too. There should be differences in calculating miles per hour, kilometers per hour, if it's going to be written on the roads, and then also different styles of curbs and no parking zones and that type of thing. But yeah, I mean, we could speculate for that for a million years before we get our hands on this masterpiece. And just 2 real quick examples here of somebody using the parallel tool to build parallel bridges across this waterway, and looks real nice. A very helpful tool that simply just allows you to build bridges and highways with a consistent distance between them. And it also seems to show on the first and second image here, you can almost see the incline or decline of each of the highways, so you can see if it's perfectly flat. So in the first image, you see like a negative 8.9, and the second image, a negative 2 on the grade. That would be interesting if that has to be taken into account for rail lines in how quickly and effectively they can deliver passengers and cargo. But I like seeing all the different types of information on the screen here. And there's a lot of little indicators here, things that look to be like a road under construction roadblock, maybe a symbol there for letting you know whether or not bridges can accommodate maybe perhaps a boat going underneath, maybe different types of ships and boats. It would be interesting in this game too to see drawbridges and waterways that could accommodate that as well. But yeah, at least a very nice, helpful tool to quickly build a highway bridge or a bridge section in just like one click, rather than having to do multiple to make sure both sides are equal and have like the deck being equal as well and trying to fight against the landscape. That can always be tedious. There's mods for that, but now that you can do it with just turn on parallel mode and then make sure that all the inclines and the distance are consistent, boom, you got it. Easy. Nice. Huge amount of info on this one for the university, confirming a lot of things about districts and the differences between City Skylines 1 and City Skylines 2. Traditionally, in the original City Skylines, when you were building a university, you would first zone that area off, kind of the same as how airports and a few other things work too, where you would, you'd build a road around where you want to build the university. You would then paint it as a district and then build within that. But it seems like in this case, we plop down a university landscape now, or perhaps a power plant or a hospital or whatnot, and then we can build onto that. Now here at the bottom, you see upgrades where whomever is building this has placed down what seems to be a park. There seems to be a few options for expanding your university, the main building, and then adding on different wings and dormitories or whatnot. And it also says that this is a part of one of 4 different levels of education, and that it can accommodate up to 2,500 students, etc., etc. Now, I hope that there's an option for both in this game, both plopping down and adding on 2 different wings of hospitals and universities and airports to enhance just a quickly buildable building, to where then you can, you build a quick airstrip or a quick university, and then later on you bulldoze that to build a larger district, which would be very nice. Now, in this case, it helps to keep things compact and more affordable and effective to build in a grid outline, or, a gridiron space in a city. But if we don't have districts where we can also paint and customize, I don't know. Hopefully we get both, because then you could build 2 different universities of 2 different styles and other buildings like hospitals. But it does confirm that buildings can be upgraded, and that is huge. We'll talk about more of that in just a second. And a quick glimpse of them building a police department in City Skylines 2. Looks like they're about to plop down one of the smaller precincts, and it looks like there's 2 buildings here under what could be law enforcement and maybe law and order. The first buildings here, the 4 that you see at the bottom, could be 4 different types of police departments. Perhaps there's a jail in there. Maybe one of those is like a maximum security jail. Maybe 2 different types of police stations and then 2 different types of jails, perhaps. And then the next tab seems to be like a government building for lawmaking. So courthouses, maybe a city hall, things for public policy planning. Maybe perhaps you have to build the city hall before you can then start doing district policies, and that would be kind of interesting actually. But it does show stars above all the buildings, so I'm imagining that's maybe now buildings that have law enforcement taken care of. Maybe it'll show you directly whether or not a building is receiving police patrol or crime prevention by having them nearby. Not sure exactly, but it certainly piques the interest a little bit. Hey, some mass transit. We have ourselves a tram station here, and next to that at the bottom we see a theme for American and European. Now, one thing I want to see in this game is the option at the start of the game, and I think this will be here, to choose between a European or an American city, to where all the vehicles in the city being driven just by regular people, and possibly the trucks and semi-trucks coming through the city will be American style, the long-nosed Peterbilts versus the more European cabovers like from Scania and such. But on the left side we see public transport listing all the ways that people can get into and around the city: bus, train, trolley bus, and airplane, and also same for cargo. So we have trains and planes and other things to bring cargo into the city and around the city too. But yeah, at the bottom there's our options to build a tram station, and then other types of tram related things like setting up the route, building tram only tracks, or possibly roads for the tram to go on. And this will probably qualify for the trolley buses as well as regular buses too. They'll need their own station, but it's really cool to see this massive building for this. And also I really like it's hard to see, but on the edges, the hedge work that goes around that to kind of cordon off that building so it's not necessarily kind of like open to the public. Like, it certainly should be a building that's kind of a little more secluded or kept from the public, as it's just a maintenance building for public transport. This isn't where they would board. This is just where they would come for the end of the day to be serviced. But I like a lot of what I see here for the menu, and it's really nice at a glance to be able to see how everybody's getting into the city just from like you going into the building menu. If you're clicking and building a tram and you notice, oh wow, I really need to add more ferry ports or something like that, a ton of people are coming in, then there you go. But it lists out tourists and citizens for that. Looks like citizens, for example, via trolley, or actually, wow, trolley bus, it looks like, are at 24,069. Nice. Tourists coming into the city via trolley bus, or at least using them to get around the city. Cool menu. I like how this is set up. Good stuff. Now I have some questions here. It looks like they've selected a residential building on, at 389 Hamilton Street, and it gives a good breakdown of who lives here and what their education is like. And it looks like on the far left side there's a listing between 3 to 1, 2, 3. I'm not exactly sure what that is, breaking down families, and maybe perhaps you can select each individual family inside that residence and learn more information about them to select each individual family to see their needs. That's pretty damn detailed. But a lot of these buildings seem like they're also pretty far away from the sidewalk. Hopefully there's ways to kind of build them right up to a sidewalk and make them more urban. I don't think we would see a lot of bushes and trees and stuff in some of these locations, but others you could. But hey, all these buildings look really nice. This is certainly what you would find in New York or an older American city for all these different brick styles. But yeah, looks good, and I do like the fact that we have an easy breakdown of both age and education, and it would be nice to also select different types of information here too, like for example work and income and different types of related things related to their life, really. And here we see level 2 out of 5, so it looks like a building can be upgraded somehow, showing you how often it can be upgraded or what you need to do that. It almost seems like, when you build in the industrial DLC in City Skylines or whatnot, where you can make a building larger and larger by just giving more people to that job and then building more things onto that. But this is a little different. And actually you can see their average wealth is wealthy, but just kind of a vague breakdown there. Oh well. On to the next one. I really can't express how happy I was to see this very short section in the trailer, but this does confirm a big ask of mine for a very long time. Now, I mentioned it before, we can upgrade power plants and we can hopefully upgrade hospitals, and obviously the university having the same thing, but power plants, finally, we can build a facility and then add on to it. This first image here showing you the coal power plant with a lot of coal in storage on the right side there. You can kind of see it stored in piles. And at the bottom, the ability to build additional turbines and possibly things like pollution prevention and maybe an upgrade to oil and other things like that. Maybe you can convert what it does or what fuel it uses to produce power. But that is really, really awesome. We don't have to dedicate huge swaths of land anymore to power facilities. We could just kind of build a facility and then add to it and upgrade over time as the city grows. And if you already know that you're going to be growing your city, you can start with the initial, like for example, nuclear reactor, and then add on reactors to that. In this case, it's a coal power plant that's adding additional turbines. But I love the breakdown on the left side, and this is huge for me. Although, of course, a very bad thing to build, the ground pollution, air pollution, and noise pollution all high. This is going to have to be outside of the city. But the coolest thing here is that this will actually use, it's like baked in. So this is going to use all the coal that you can provide from your city, or it'll have to be shipped in via train or truck. Now, I think that was kind of a thing from City Skylines before, but it's much more of a prominent thing. It doesn't seem to kind of happen on the back end. If we go to the second image now, you can see them getting ready to select a advanced furnace, so that'll kind of increase the output. And I love the cost for these. The additional turbine I think was $195. This is $35,000, and you can also see the upkeep per month on that too. So building a power facility is much more of a, I don't know, just it feels like the heart of the city. Instead of building, again, multiple solar power plants, it would be really cool if this feature for the coal power plant is also present in the maybe solar panels, maybe in a windmill farm, maybe there's other power types like a tidal generator, or maybe even we get something like this for trash and incineration and a waste-to-energy incinerator, which would be amazing. But yeah, once you see them plop down that second reactor there, or furnace, you can see the power lines also get upgraded and included on the side. But yeah, I want an ability to be able to deliver coal and things via rail. I think that would be amazing in this game, and have different ways for industry. You know, the power plant is kind of a part of your industry too. So yeah, very excited. This is something that just blew my mind, and something that I loved about SimCity 2013 that I always wanted in the original City Skylines, and happy to see it here in City Skylines 2. Not to mention it employs people too. 32 people being employed here. Again, not new, but cool to see it. Well, that about does it for our first look and first impressions of gameplay from City Skylines 2 from the trailer that they dropped at the Xbox event. And yeah, I couldn't be more excited. Now, this is a painful process, because now we have to wait even more, and it's hard to make a judgment just on the surface. Even now, after seeing some actual gameplay from the developers, I gotta get this in my hands to really see what it's gonna look and feel like at a more in-depth level after hours and hours of gameplay. But this is now available on Steam. If you want to add it to your wish list, it is $49.99, and their Steam store page is up. I've also included some other images in this video of some screenshots from their store page, and of course there's more information there, which hopefully will eventually be updated over time after release. And there's always the possibility of something like multiplayer coming in later, and where City Skylines 1 was at its launch is nothing in comparison to where it is now, even with the vanilla base game with no DLCs. So it is undoubtful that Paradox will eventually add more things, and Colossal Order will add more things over time, including DLCs and everything else. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. What do you like? What do you dislike? What are some of your hopes and dreams for this game that we haven't yet seen? And what kind of a city are you going to build at the start? An industrial powerhouse, a tourist destination, or a big brain university and an educational center? I don't know. You tell me. But hey, thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to smash the like button for City Skylines and more city builders on the channel. And make sure you turn on the notification bell and join us live for more of City Skylines and City Skylines 2 upon its eventual release in October of 2023. Let's go! Thank you very much, everybody, for watching, and have yourself a great day.